Let me pray anyway. Father, thanks for a new day, whether it's raining or misting or sunny. We're thankful for life and your provision of all those things. And we're thankful for seasons. We're thankful for the different seasons of our lives. And pray that today would help us to be fruitful in this season. Unique season because of COVID and the pandemic and just everything going on in our world. So just help us to continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to be faithful, continue to look to love others. So I pray that this call would be helpful and encouraging. You know what every person needs to hear today. So I pray that you would provide that hope, provide that encouragement, provide that challenge today. So thanks for this time. We get to be together as family, as brothers and sisters, and we just pray that you would lead us. So we love you. Pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Well, I want to review, as we always try to do at the beginning. And so any thoughts, reflections, anything that's been on your heart, on your mind, related to what we've been talking about these last months? Talked about a lot of things, so you should have some ideas to draw from. Unless you did not take any notes, unless you have not looked at my tools, unless your memory is very poor. All of that's possible, by the way. But yeah, share some big ideas, or an idea that's come off an idea, or something that you've experienced in your church, in your community, with your friends, in your neighborhood, at your school. Wide open sharing.
I'm happy to kick us off. We've been entering into the arena of meals and parties. You know, Adam knows this well because he's in our MC. That we've been invited into Zacchaeus's house, so to speak. Nice. Taking some of the parties out into communities. We had lovely beans on toast at this lady's house, and we had a great time there. So, and she's like, I've got so many friends I want to invite. So I think the thing that I want to share is this is so much simpler than what we're used to. It's like the way Watford FC used to play football back in the day, where they would just boot the ball down the far end and hopefully somebody would get on the end of it. It wasn't pretty, but it was very simple and very effective. Yeah. And, you know, we've just made a list of what we don't need to do this. We don't need a logo. We don't need a website. We don't need a stewarding team. It's like the list goes on and on of things we don't need to do this. You know, I challenge the British government to legislate against this. It's impossible. Yeah. You know? So we're just finding that an absolute fresh, refreshing thing. It's messy and it's not easy, but it is simple.
Great, love that. I was talking with a group of leaders yesterday. Same thing came out of this guy's mouth. This guy's been in ministry for 30 years. He's done stuff all over the world. And he said, he and I met probably 18 months ago. And he said, when I first started to listen to you, he said, my first thought was this is too simple. He said, this is like too good to be true. It's too simple. This can't work. So he was very much a doubter. But now 18 months later, he's telling everybody. And again, this guy's been in mega churches. He's been part of church planting networks. So very encouraging to hear him tell that story and to hear him say um, that we can be the church, we can make disciples, we can live on mission, and we can do it in a way, like you said, Mark, that doesn't need buildings, doesn't need a lot of money, doesn't need staff, doesn't need super Christians, just doesn't need those things. It just needs people that will love each other well and love others well. So,
Yep.
so anyway, I hope that resonates with the rest of you also. Um, but what else? What else have you been thinking about or discussing with people around you? Your small group, your other leaders. What's going on?
Does anyone want to jump in?
No, go for it, Theo.
Sure. That's what Adam's mic. So yeah, and it's been cool. Kind of our group. We've been through the summer. Dynamic really shifted a lot of people who are kind of around in our fellowship. It just changed a lot. Some people went off home from uni, and we had a lot of newer people come and join it. So it's been really. We felt like laying the foundation again of just simple, deep relationships, which has come with challenges of loving, as you said, loving each other well. And I feel like that's crucial before we really go intentional about going to love others well, kind of being like, as family we go. So it's felt like that definitely the last couple of months has been, deepening, kind of just gathering around a small dinner table when there's quite a few of you. It's an experience when you're kind of sat on objects and eating from bowls, and there's something so beautiful about that you just don't get anywhere else. And then there's something around just sitting at the table. So I've loved it. I've loved kind of just doing the simplicity of life, and despite kind of everyone's timetables that they're like busy life, finding that time, that space just to kind of bring together. So I think for us it's been deepening these relationships so that out of that our vision for mission is widening, and our excitement for what's to come is awesome. But even Pippa, who's in our group, started saying knit and natter last week, and so like seeing things come about of. Unless Pippa, do you want to share anything with that?
Sorry, I just missed the last little bit because my dad rang, but I'm back in the chat. I was inspired.
But you might need to explain knit and natter to Todd. That's a curious British phrase.
I was gonna say, when that came out of his mouth, I was like, that's another language.
It's just like a knitting group or crochet, like any handcraft.
Awesome.
So it was an idea. I think it kind of came from this meeting a couple of months ago before the summer, and it's kind of just a group of kind of Christians, non-Christians, just people that we've met, friends of friends, just come together over some tea and cake and knit. And it's really exciting because it's not like a Christian group.
Yeah.
I have church, I have garden church, I'm in lots of Christian circles, but it's not like come to church, it's come and eat cake, come and knit.
Yeah.
And it's just such a cool space, and I really enjoy it. I also I haven't been to many of these meetings, but I came a couple of months ago and you talked about 21 meals a week, and kind of like it's so easy just to have, like, you're cooking anyway, just to have other people around, and that's been very useful.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, one of the things about knitting or something like that, I mean, you're doing the thing, but you can sit there and talk and build relationship, tell stories, ask questions the entire time. So, I mean, it's ideal. It's perfect. I was talking with some leaders yesterday, and we were talking about doing specific men things. So men might not be knitting, but there is a male version of that. I'm not sure what it is. Cutting wood or hunting. Who knows what the male version is. But I was also telling them about my wife, and through the years she has done jewelry making nights. So she'll get some materials to make some cool earrings, and they put them out on the table. They'll have 3-4 Christian women there, 3-4 non-Christian women there, and they've got all the supplies. And so some of the women know how to do it, some of the women don't know how to do it. So it's a cool teaching time. They're learning a skill. They're learning to make these cool, like high quality earrings, which are actually quite simple. You can go online and you can figure out how to do it. You can figure out how to do it really, really quickly. So, but it's cool.
Yeah.
These women are learning a skill,
Mm.
and then they're enjoying doing it. And then at the end of the night, they're taking home 2 or 3 pairs of cool earrings.
Tom, Todd, you're reading our mind, because my dad makes earrings probably similar to the one your wife makes, that
Okay.
sort of thing. And he's bought me a kit to do all these earrings. And actually, last week, someone who can't knit was like, "Oh, can I make earrings?" So yeah, that's where we'll be heading next.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. So, and then again, they're there for 2. I mean, they have some desserts, some snacks, but they're there for 2.5 hours. And what are they doing? They're asking questions, telling stories, building trust, becoming friends. I know the non-Christians we've had come into those ladies' nights have just absolutely loved it. They've just loved it. And along the way, our women have had significant conversations with them. So it hasn't just been talking for 2 hours about earrings and, who knows. They've gotten into significant discussions along the way as different women tell their stories, as different questions get asked. So anyway, by the way, that will be our topic for our next call next month. It's like, okay, we do the knitting thing, the earring thing, the football thing, the party, the meal, the park. How do we talk to people? How do we train our people to be genuine, take an interest in people's lives, take an interest in their stories, ask good questions, be good listeners? We're going to talk a lot about that next month. Okay. So thanks for sharing all that, Pippa. Keep going. Love it. Love it. So you said the male version of that might be knitting. Is that what I'm seeing in the chat? I'm not anti-knitting, so don't hear that. Okay.
No, I was just joking. My son he spent a day with Granny, and he came back just knitting, and now he knits on the way to school, knits on the way home from school. And I've tried so many times to teach him something, like, I don't know, tennis, rugby, wakeboarding, surfing, anything. But one day with Granny, just knitting like crazy. So
it sounds like you need to get Granny teaching him to surf and wakeboard.
Yeah. It's the Granny factor. Yeah,
get Granny out there on the surfboard and let her go.
Yeah.
So, but you can also get your son knitting some cool beanies for his friends, so he can be extra cool.
Yeah, that would be good.
Go online, look up cool beanie, and get him knitting. Could even be a money maker. So
yeah, I could retire.
Little side job. So, hey, good stuff. What else, guys? I love this emphasis on relationship. Like we talked about that first call, actually, if you can remember back those months. We emphasized 2 things on that first call. Is that God's design for his church, for people, is relational. That was one of the big things, and supernatural. So it's relational, and it's relational with him at the center of those relationships. So love that we're highlighting that. So sorry, somebody was going to start. Paul.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's been great since the things have unlocked a bit over here. I think it's the same in England, a lot more than over in Northern Ireland. But the fact we can be together now and we can eat together, so a bit of normality returned. And actually, we were talking last time about clarifying mission, and our groups have been in sustained mode. I think there's been mission happening where they're serving the neighbours and stuff during lockdown, but it's the family dynamic has been looked at deliberately, which has been great just to explore what it means to be family again. So we've basically gone back to our life groups and asked them just to do a bit of navel gazing briefly over 3 times, just to look at who they are as a family, what's important about that, how that's important characteristic of, and then likewise servants, and next week we're looking together at the mission we have. But I mean, the great thing is just like the serving stuff that can all happen a bit more intentionally. And our group, we went up and cleared a field of stones. It's a rural area and some grass growing in this field, which a charity have bought, and we've got to clear all the stones, the big stones, not little ones, the big stones out of the field, so the grass can grow.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a job, but actually the whole life group went up, including the kids. Easy thing for the kids to do. But the social glue was incredible. And I think you find that with serving, we'll teach you all to suck eggs, but when you serve, actually the dividends it pays to your missional community are huge, as well as what you're contributing to someone else's life and the kingdom effort. What you get, the fruit for the group is enormous. And it felt like we really kind of, we really sort of gelled again properly. So
love it. Yep, great, Dan, it's a great, I love that connection. Doing it when we do it together as a community, I mean, that really is being family. It's like family. So when we're serving others like that, it's a family, that's an expression of family. So one thought with that, Paul, and yeah, everybody, is just for your people, I think we need to expand even the definition of what it means to serve. I think people it's like, if it's not at the building, not at the program, not at the event, like they can't imagine, they don't have imagination for daily serving, for being a servant in daily life. I think that's one of the things we need to expand for our people and redefine in a bigger way for our people. So there's so many daily needs people have. We've got a woman connected with our gospel community, and she's going through a messy divorce. So she had a court appointment last week. She had to come before the judge. Her husband was there. He's trying to basically steal their son. He's trying to get full custody away from the mom when she currently has almost full custody, which she should, because he's a jerk. And so Hannah went with her. My wife, Hannah, went with her to the court appointment. So Hannah was there. Hannah could have been doing 10 other things. We've got a lot going on, okay, as a family. Hannah could have been doing 10 other things that morning, but Hannah sat in the courtroom for 3 hours with this hurting woman, this scared woman, scared because the judge could have said, yeah, I'm taking your son away. Well, that's a incredible way to serve and to express our servant identity, is to come alongside people in those types of situations, whether it's related to their family, related to their job. We've got a friend right now because he's getting ready to lose his job in the next few days because he doesn't want to get vaccinated. His company is saying, get vaccinated or you're fired. He's been in the job for 20 years. so it's tragic. But we are helping this friend basically try to find another job, because he may have to move out of state, which would be, he grew up here in the city. He's lived here 45 years. His family's here, extended family, his mom's here, everything's here, his life's here, but he might have to move out of state because he's getting ready to lose his job in the next few days because of the vaccine situation. So what's it mean for us as a community to come alongside situations like that? Does that make sense? So again, it's another way to serve and to be servants in the like daily realities that create pain, that create stress, that create depression, anxiety, fear. So I think we need to define servanthood in that way. Sometimes people think about it just in tangible, like which thing you did, Paul, sounds awesome. That is one way to serve. I think a lot of people think it's usually physical, but servanthood can also be emotional. It can also be relational. It can be coming alongside at the courtroom, or at the job loss, or at the sick spouse who's in the hospital, or the child who's struggling in school. Coming alongside that family, saying, is there anything we can do? I'm pretty good at math. Could I help with a little tutoring? Little math tutoring, English tutoring, whatever, history tutoring. I've got some experience there. Could I help your child basically make progress in this difficult season? So anyway, love the example, Paul. Just want to highlight some of those ideas. Mark?
Adam, I wonder, in light of what Todd's just shared, whether you might want to say something about how we are using projects to bring people straight in potentially to missional community, rather than having to go via the church and then out again. Thinking about what you've experienced with family mentoring, where we got schools, state schools referring families to us. And now,
Awesome.
So Adam, do you want to say a little bit about that, because that's kind of fresh?
Yeah, so we have very good relationships with both primaries and the secondary school in our town, and the response we've had from them over the last few weeks has actually really quite exploded, in that we kind of proposed various things to them over the course of the last 12 months, and of course things were slowed down with COVID, but they're coming to fruition now, and we've got many different kind of different projects on the go that give us access to people that would be probably quite hard to identify in the community. They probably would be quite hidden, but because of the relationship with the school, especially our secondary school, and the relationship we have with the pastoral practitioner there, the lead practitioner, it's really kind of opening up a great deal of opportunity, and also the way I think kind of the main way I probably see it is actually it's opening up an awful lot of opportunity that the guys within our MC can actually get involved in, because we've laid the groundwork for some really solid, really cool community work and schools work that people can kind of jump on board, and the rest of the church, of course, as well. Yeah. And I think that's really important. I think because a lot of what I'm hearing at the moment is how we pay attention to those who are within our own communities, and I understand that's really, really vital. But I think it's also vital that our service goes beyond our own. Our service goes to those who we have no connection with whatsoever. I mean, that's the love of Christ. It doesn't it's not kind of that exclusive, is it, at the end of the day? So, and I think we need to be encouraging MCs, those within our MC groups, to just show their love within their community and not expect anything back, absolutely nothing. And I love that. I love that we can show our love, and if people want to get involved, they want to get involved. If they don't, well, that's fine, because Christ did that many, many times throughout the gospel. Just did it because he loved. Simple as that. So we've got a very fortunate position within the town at the moment, and just need people to jump on board.
Yeah, nice one. Thanks, Adam. Cheers, bud.
Yeah, with those types, yeah, I love that. With those types of things that start at the beginning of relationship is through a program or an event. The big important thing that needs to happen, again, you get these families referred to you or these students referred to you, you start a relationship, is then the ongoing, the consistency of loving them well, serving them well, and again, doing it as a community. I've seen a lot of church have these types of projects or programs, and it's very sporadic. It's very hit and miss. And so there's this big pool of people, but they actually never end up going very deep with any of them or with hardly any of them. So it's not a bad thing to love in that way, to serve in that way. It's just better if we'll focus, which actually goes back to our conversation last month of clarifying mission. And it's really a question of focus. So Adam, you've got this big pool of people. It doesn't matter where they're coming from, whether they're from the neighborhood or your workplace or these government initiated connections. Doesn't matter where it's coming from, where the relationships start. What's key is that a community, a missional community, then says, okay, from this pool of people, where will we focus? Who will we give focus to? Who will we go deep with? Who will we become friends of sinners with? So we're not going to shut off the others. We're going to care for them some around the fringe, around the edge, but we're going to bring focus to some so that we can go deep, so that we can become friends, so that we can ultimately believe that we'll be able to proclaim Jesus and see them become a Christ follower. So that's the big thing to pay attention to in the future, is to say, okay, this is awesome. Look at these people we're being connected to. Love it. How are we going to focus? How is our community going to focus? So, Paul, I was curious, actually. There was just a little bit of hesitation from you last month about putting people on a list. Any further thoughts about that since then?
No, I think what we were just teasing out was that I guess our I mean, what you're saying there about focusing on people, and that's, I mean, there needs to be people who we are pouring our lives into. I think we're just teasing out the fact that it felt what it feels like, maybe culturally, I don't know. It feels a bit like, yeah, you are, your purpose is just about conversion and discipleship. And we say, yes, our purpose is about discipleship, but, you know, as opposed to being genuine friends with somebody, and as they get to know you and you them, they get to see what it looks like to be a follower of Jesus. They hear the gospel as you are through your friendship. And so I think we all agree that you need to be intentional and deliberate, but I suppose it does feel fishy if it's not genuine. And so in all of this, I think you're preaching to, I mean, we know this is your heart as well, Todd, and I think everyone who's on screen now is that this stuff has got to be genuine.
Yep.
And it will be genuine, because I think we're all like, yeah, we want to be genuinely friendly with these people, and the guys who are invited to the barbecue or whoever's in your life right now. But it does start with intentionality, you know, with purpose. Yeah, I think it's more just the irk of, you know, I'm being your friend, so you become Jesus's friend, is I think a caution. It's just a caution to, you know, for me personally, perhaps, to make sure that, you know, let your love be genuine. The word says. So that's all.
Good word. It's a good word. It could go that way.
Yeah.
It could lack genuine. It could become that, or could, it could be that. So it's a good thing to highlight. I think I said this last time, I'll just say it again. Those things don't have to be opposed, obviously. When we talk about focus and intentionality, that can be genuine, that can flow out of a genuine love for those people. I'm intentional with my kids. I focus in certain ways on my kids because I love them, not because I have to, not because I'm required to, because they're my kids. So similar, so cool story. We talk about these kinds of things all the time, but my gospel community, because of some intentionality over the last year, even under COVID, and even leading into COVID, built some friendships with some lost people. And so about 3 weeks ago, we said, hey, we're going to get together 4 times every other Sunday evening, and we're going to eat pizza or something simple, something yummy, and we're going to discuss the story of God. And all 3, so we put that invitation out to 4 non-Christian families. One of them politely said, not this time. So that's okay. They said no. I didn't feel like, oh man, rejected. I was like, and I actually told the guy, because he and I we've been talking about taking our kids to go out on scooters at the park. And so I texted him. I said, hey, Norm, we're doing this story of God thing. You and Jackie want to join us? And he came back to me a few days later, said, not this time. But it was polite. It was normal. I texted him back. I said, well, let's get that scooter, let's get that scooter day scheduled that we talked about. So he said no this time, which is okay, but 3 said yes. So 2 Sundays ago, we had our first story of God night together. Pizza, first hour, story of God, second hour. And the non-Christians loved it. They loved it. They basically said, we can't wait for next time. Okay? It's too bad we're not doing it each week. We're skipping. We're going every 2 weeks. And so, but they loved it. We're doing it again this coming weekend now. Okay? So we'll be with them again. But like how that happened was simply what we talk about all the time on these calls. We didn't do anything magical. We didn't do anything. It was just genuine, consistent, intentional. And so these non-Christians, they trust us. They know we're friends. So when we invited them in to talk about the story of God, it was not like, whoa, that's strange. It's like, oh, I can feel the relationship shifting now. Now you're trying to, is this like a bait and switch? Wasn't that feeling at all. It's like, no, we've been at meals together. We've been at parties together. We did Halloween together. We did Christmas together. We've had all these conversations together. We've been at the park together. And now you're inviting us into this God thing. We don't even know what it is, but we trust you. Okay. So really fun to tell that story because it's really what we talk about all the time, right? You build relationship, you build trust, you become friends, and then you look for opportunities to invite them into sometimes informal spiritual conversations. But this is actually a formal spiritual experience. So we're doing it this weekend, and then we'll be doing it two more times with them. But one of the non-Christian guys who we weren't even sure he would come with his wife. We knew his wife was excited. We heard he wasn't excited. But he came. And then guess who talked the most? He did. Lots of comments, lots of questions. Really cool. So the guy we thought might not come, might be the most resistant, actually was the most engaged. So yeah. And then I don't know what you guys, we've got Halloween coming up. You know, that's a big social thing here. There'll be lots of kids, lots of families out in the neighborhood. So we will be out in the neighborhood. We will be with those non-Christian families. We will be gathering candy. And we will be, again, it's just one more step in that consistent, genuine, intentional process with these people. So, any thoughts or comments about that? Nope. Well, hey, look, so this transitions really easily into the topic for today, is to say, okay, relational, we do it as a community, looks like family. We try to bring some clarity, some focus, some intentionality to some of these relationships, wherever they came from, work or school or the neighborhood or the park, or these government opportunities Adam was talking about. So we clarify some of that, but then how do we help each of our community, each of our small groups, how do we help each of them create a clear plan? From my experience, most churches don't do this very well. They think about it, they talk about it, but they never quite get there. And when you don't get to a final, specific, sustainable plan with each of your small groups, they are going to struggle. They will struggle every time. Because there's too many things that aren't clear. There's too many things that aren't consistent. There's too many distractions in their life. So I've had multiple calls this week, same topic, same problem in these churches, saying, yeah, we understand how important it is because we plan other parts of our lives in detailed ways, our job, our family, our budget, our grocery shopping, our food shopping. We plan all those things, but we don't plan discipleship and mission very well. So I sent you guys that resource to look at. That's just an example. So it's not something to like cut and paste. It's not a cookie cutter thing. It's an example, but I believe it has key elements to consider. So when you look at something like that plan, that 30-day plan, and you think about your situation, whether it's Ireland or Southern England or Cardiff or wherever God has placed you, what do you feel about that? What do you like? What don't you like? Reflect, comment.
I love it. And I think what we're finding is I'm grieved that we have such full lives, all of us, that we can't kind of put more in or spend more time together. I know that you can do the simple things like go shopping together and just like do the things that we're already doing, but do it together. But even that sometimes gets a little bit like, you know, how do we fit things like that in? So with getting a clear rhythm of it, and I'm loving doing life, but almost I'm like, I want to spend more of my life, because then the more life that they see of ours and that we see in them, the more discipleship will happen by spending life with them. So it's almost that sacrifice of, I remember, so we have a Messianic Jew in one of our groups, and she practices the Sabbath on a Saturday. Yep. And it comes with this challenge of, okay, she doesn't want to maybe do certain things, but like almost that call to go, okay, maybe we're going to have to like lay down our Saturdays and what we want to do on a Saturday so that we can have fellowship with her. Hasn't necessarily come to anything particular that we could testify about, but the excitement of saying, okay, I'm going to lay down our life so that we do life together. And that means not doing what we want to do necessarily, but for the sake of doing it together. So it's exciting. It feels like it still feels like we've got so much to go. But we're finally booked in like a games night in next week, and and Pippo was on earlier, kind of having these other bits and pieces popping up where we just do life, simple, like no focus other than just hang out, and that's where we can bring friends. So good. I'm loving it.
Good. Well, I like the British way you just said that. We've got it booked in. Okay. We would not say it that way, but I love that, and that is so critical to get things booked in. So again, I was talking with leaders yesterday. They're scattered. They work with churches in different parts of the world, and they were complaining, where they were just complaining or discouraged about people's busyness. And they hear it everywhere they go. They hear it week in and week out. Churches are working with people are too busy for community that looks like family, too busy for mission, too busy. So that's probably another conversation to say, okay, how do we, there actually is a gospel issue there. If people are that busy, they're making, some of the choices they're making are not proper, are not good stewardship. That's another conversation, but it is something to talk about with your people in your churches, to say, how do we steward our lives? Through a gospel lens, through a kingdom lens. Like, does Jesus want us to be spending 10, 15 hours a week doing that? Like, is that pleasing to Jesus? We need to be raising those kinds of questions with our people, okay? But another topic for another time. The scheduling piece of it with busy people is even more critical. Because if things do not get booked in, they're highly unlikely to happen. So that's why something like some version of this plan for each of your small groups is so critical. And Theo, I liked what you said. When we help each of our groups create a good, specific, sustainable plan, it also creates this momentum for other organic things to happen, spontaneous things to happen. When you get a good, consistent plan booked in, other things will flow out of it. It will create other momentum. So it's really critical. You saw in my plan there, it says there's a planned part to it and an organic or spontaneous part to it. But again, the spontaneous, I believe, won't happen without the planned part in most cases. People just don't have the mental, they just don't track with that many details and that many, they don't have the ability to do that. So the spontaneous, the organic will not often happen very much if there's not a consistent planned part to it also. So let's go back to the planned part. When you look at that, do you think Does that look sustainable to you in Ireland? Does that look sustainable to you in Southern England? Can you imagine each of your small groups, life groups, can you imagine them living in some form of rhythm like that? That's balancing family, balancing mission.
What we found so far, Todd, is that we're meeting every Sunday with food. One of those is the missional community party. The other one is a little bit more intentional in terms of sitting in that space where church might be one day for us when there's enough groups to cluster them together. They're really not that different at the moment, but that's where we've got into that rhythm of meeting weekly. In addition, there's DNA for men and women, which is growing and good. Where we found it difficult is getting people to commit to games nights, movie nights. You know, we rarely see everybody together. There's always some, I mean, I think we need the group to be big enough that we've still got a viable group, and we do. I think we're around about 30 people now, average age in the 20s, and that's with an 83-year-old and a 65-year-old.
Nice.
So that's pretty good going. Lots of kids, lots of teenagers, you know. So I think it's good. I think the busyness question is important because that comes back to identity. If we don't think we're missionaries, we won't live like missionaries. If we think we are missionaries, then that will have big implications for how we live. So it's just saying that again and again and again and again.
Yep.
But I think it's just some, you know, how do we get people to do more than the basics? How do we, you know, help them to slot another thing in as well?
Yeah. Well, again, you see, we've got like game nights, movie nights, park, beach. We've got those things locked into the schedule. So again, you've got to talk with the group and say, when do we want to do these things, everybody? So it's a group discussion, it's a group brainstorming, it's a group commitment. Like when are you available? When do you want to do these things? Part of it also is there's a shared responsibility to it. So each of those different missional pieces on there are hosted by a different family or a different individual, which means it's going to help them grow in hospitality, grow in hosting, grow in organization, because they're responsible for it. So good pressure is on them to lead it well, organize it well, communicate well, host it well, clean it up well. Does that make sense? So it's not like Mark and Joe are doing 3 out of 4 things. No, don't let them. So Paul and Paula, one thing. Mark and Joe, one thing. You take one thing, another family, another individual takes another thing, somebody else takes another thing, somebody else takes another thing. Shared responsibility for all of it. Also, communicating what you said, Mark, very good. Everybody doesn't have to be at everything all the time. Kids get sick. Somebody's got to stay late after work. Somebody has to study for a big exam. Things happen. Okay? You don't have to be at everything. You just have to have enough to make it viable. So you see one of our host couples host Saturday morning breakfast. Well, they're the primary host. They're the primary cooks. Eggs, bacon, waffles, whatever. But they only need like 2 or 3 other people, 2 or 3 other Christians to help out to make that a viable experience. Does that make sense? So sometimes, again, we get into this rut of thinking, man, if we can't get everybody there, we shouldn't do it. Oh, can't do it on Saturday night. Half the group can't be there. Well, half the group can be there. So let's do it. Or that thing on Sunday afternoon, man, there's going to be 10 people missing, but 6 people can come and 3 of our neighbors. That's awesome. 6 of our small group and 3 of our neighbors, perfect. So you've got to get into this reality that you lock things into the schedule and you go for it pretty much no matter what. Like, unless everybody's sick, or unless there's a blizzard, or, you know, some earthquake or some, you know, crisis, like, we're going to do it. We're going to do it if 2 families can be there or 3 students can be there with 2 of their non-Christian friends. We're going to do it. Those will sometimes turn out to be some of the best times. I remember some years ago, we would organize certain parties, certain things at our house. We'd organize, like, we'd invite like 6 families. 5 of them would say no, but 1 of them would say yes. And so we would go for it, and we would have a beautiful night with them. And we would have conversations with them that we probably wouldn't have had if others would have come. Does that make sense? So sometimes you might invite 10 and 2 come. Success. You invite 8 and 1 comes. Success. You've got 20 Christians in your life group and only 5 can be there. Success. It's all success. Because it's not a program where we're counting heads. It's a relational process, so that no matter if there's 3 or 7 or 21 there, we know we're going to go deeper with whoever's there. We're going into deeper relationship. We're going to love each other well, no matter who's there. 5, 7, 12, 21, doesn't matter. So again, you've got to get things locked into a schedule, because then people will get into the habit of organizing the other parts of their life around that. Does that make sense? So if you book in 2 Friday nights in a month, people are going to start locking them into their schedule. 1 Saturday afternoon, they'll start locking it into their schedule. But it's got to be consistent. Be careful about, like, doing the first Saturday and then the second Saturday and then the fourth Saturday and then the second. Just say, hey, everybody, we're going to commit to being at that park the second Saturday of every month, rain or shine, cold or warm, 5 people or 20 people. We're going to be at that park. We're going to hang out and do something fun. And it's going to be like rooted, deeply rooted in our calendar.
Yeah, just
go ahead, Joe.
Okay. I was just going to say we kind of started with our gatherings as kind of simple hospitality as well, and I think it very quickly reverts to a kind of entertaining. You know, the person who's hosting whatever it is, whether it's a gathering, family meal, movie night, or whatever, starts putting on all of the food. And then they get a bit stressed out when people don't tell them whether they're coming or not. And whether, you know, it's like, oh, how much food do I need to prepare? And it's like, so we've just had to have a conversation this week with some of our people saying, we've got to make this sustainable. We cannot get into a situation where we're feeling a little frustrated with people. So it's not a good atmosphere, you know. So it's like, let's go back to what we originally said. It's bring and share. So that way, if 20 people come and they're all bringing something to share, then we'll have loads of food and probably a variety. If only 5 people come, well, those 5 people bring something and we've got 5 different things to share. Yeah. And it's so just to go back to that, I think our culture is so quick to revert back to the entertaining and wanting to put on and provide, and and they don't want, I think there's a few people in our group who probably just, they want to bless others. They don't want to have to say, well, can you bring something? It's like, so we just have to keep on having those conversations to make it sustainable, and so we don't get frustrated.
Yeah. Well, a couple practical good thoughts, Joe. A couple things we've learned through the years. Require people to RSVP. Require it. Like, talk about it all the time. Remind them. So 2 weeks before, need you to RSVP for the movie night. They don't do it, check in 3 days later. Because that doesn't take much time, it's 10 seconds to send out a reminder text. So we send out reminder emails, reminder texts, got RSVP. Joe, require, you know what I mean by this, require in a good way, proper way, require people to, so don't just say, we need everybody to bring and share. You say that, and then you say, here's the sign up. What are you bringing? Require them to communicate what they're bringing, how much they're bringing. We do it for every event. We require people to say, what are you bringing? Is it a dessert? Is it a salad? Is it drinks? Is it an entree? Tell us what you're bringing, how much you're bringing. Have to. It's what good family does. It's good planning. It's common sense. Okay? So require them to RSVP, require the sign up. When somebody's hosting, encourage the host, this is part of hosting, to ask specific people to help. So we've got Halloween coming up. If you were part of my GC, I would say, okay, it's going to be in our driveway. Todd and Hannah are taking responsibility for these two things. Mark and Joe need you to do this. We're not even going to ask you. Okay, Mark and Joe, we need you to do the popcorn. Okay, Paul and Paula, you're responsible for the hot chocolate. Okay, Theo, you're responsible to help set up the sound system, because we're going to do some kids music. Adam, you're going to set up the projector and the screen. So a lot of times we just proactively, again, that's not bad family. That's not harsh. That's not controlling. That's just reasonable to get certain things done properly. And after you start doing those things, that becomes even easier. So Paul and Paula will not be shocked that Todd's asking them to do the hot chocolate. Okay? Adam will not be shocked, because I know he likes setting up projectors and equipment. Adam likes to do that. And so I'm going to ask Adam to do that every time. He's not shocked by it. Okay? Mark and Joe, you're not shocked by the proposal to do the popcorn. Okay? So you see a number of these things are really important for each of your groups to help them grow in. So the host needs to be proactive. That's the first principle. Just like Todd told Mark and Joe popcorn, Paul and Paula hot chocolate, Theo music, Adam projector, everything's covered. Done. Okay? Or, like I said, party, picnic at the park, sign up, who's bringing what, how much. Okay, great. Mark and Joe signed up for dessert. Adam signed up for salad. Paul and Paul signed up for drinks. Dave signed up for an entree. Oh, looks like we need another entree. Who wants to cover that? Family? Who wants to cover the entree? So sign up. And then again, everybody is RSVPing. Who's coming? How many are you bringing? And man, when you got family with kids, especially, or you've got uni students with a lot of friends, they must RSVP with who they're coming with. You do those things, man, it'll make things go smooth. So everything you see on our 30-day plan, the movie nights, the game nights, the breakfast, the park, the beach, that's how we do it. That's how we handle food. That's how we handle games. That's how we handle setup. That's how we handle cleanup. We don't just nicely suggest it. Man, we hope some people stick around to help clean up. You got to take it further than that. You got to be more proactive than that. Okay? And you can do it in nice ways.
Yeah.
This isn't like angry. Okay? This is like you're just reminding them, hey everybody, we're family, we do it together, we set it up together, we clean it up together, we do everything together. So we're going to communicate together. We're going to communicate about the details. Just that's how good family rolls.
Yeah,
so.
That's really helpful, Todd. It's kind of like, I don't know how we've got this far without actually doing that. It makes perfect sense. But I think we've got a few people who are very good at just letting people know whether they're coming or not. And then we've got quite a handful who are just, I kind of will come if I can, or last minute cancellers. And I think if they've got a job, if they feel part of it, more of a movement, they've got a responsibility, they'll feel like they belong more as well, which is, you know, it's obvious, isn't it?
Can I just add as well? Something a couple of weeks ago, we were just going over kind of like what's the culture of this group, like who do we want to be, and one thing that kind of came up was about this kind of phrase of saying that we need to be together rather than we should. Kind of that being the culture that we want to be, that we need to be together. We miss each other during the week. So then the culture is actually, it's not like I should be there because I haven't been there much, or it's then actually like, well, we're family, so of course we want to be there, and that there's a need to gather together. So there's a need to respond in that I want to be there, which is like a culture thing. It's nothing you can just do, but once that culture is set, then these things hopefully there'll be less of a burden to have to be doing that, because that comes hand in hand. Yeah.
Great thought, Theo. I said this to some leaders yesterday, the idea to consider. So if these relational experiences we're creating, if they are not life-giving, then there's a problem. If they're exhausting, stressing, discouraging, ooh, I don't want to do that anytime again soon. Something's broken in it. Because these things should be, God's designed these things to be life-giving. Where we're with a group of people, we're loving and we're being loved. Whether it's around breakfast or football or the park or a meal or a party or on and on and on. If it's not giving life to us, giving hope to us, something's broken in it. It's not the form that is the problem. It's how we're going about it in some way. So, and that's a big deal, because Theo, kind of love what you're saying. Why don't people want more of this in their life? Why aren't they trying to schedule more into this life, more of this into their life? If they're resistant to it, something's wrong. If it's like, another meal with those people, something's wrong. I've got to go to another party, eat good food, have fun, rich conversation. I got to do that again. I'm serious. When we did the story of God 2 Sundays ago, we had 3 Christian families there, 3 non-Christian families there. It's a beautiful night. Didn't matter that it was Christian, non-Christian. Didn't matter that it was 12 adults and 8 kids. The number didn't matter. It didn't matter. Like, it was a rich relational experience where people were loving and being loved. I was loving, me personally, Todd was loving and being loved. Does that make sense? So we've got to step back and look at everything we're doing and say, is that happening? If that isn't happening, if it's not life-giving, if people aren't feeling loved, we've got to say, okay, we need to change something here because that should be happening. This kind of experience should result in people loving and being loved. Thoughts about that? And we'll wrap up here. Thoughts, reflections. And let me say one more thing. I think I want to use that word Paul used earlier in the call. Like when there's genuine relationship, when it's genuine love, when people are being genuinely loved and being genuinely cared for, being genuinely served. I believe what I'm describing, I believe it happens. But what do you think about my little sermon?
To jump on, sorry, and I think it is so simple and basic, and it's like the fruit. We should see the fruit. I know that we like with like one side we're going, hey, this is the culture. There's also relationally some mess in, well, there's mess in everyone's lives really, and I guess when we're doing deep relationship, this mess comes out. And for us, that has proven to be sometimes a bit tricky when relationally between 2 people in the group, actually that almost comes out into the context and it can feel a bit tense almost. And it's like, this isn't life-giving. And we know there's a problem there. And that's something we're working through, being able to disciple them through and pastorally. But it's one of the biggest challenges that we're facing at the moment. It's kind of going, how do we, like there's people with mess. How do we deal with that in a way which is life-giving?
Good.
Everyone else, yeah.
Good. I like how you said it. So problems, conflict, absolutely. We're human, we're sinful, we're selfish, we're arrogant. We're all of those things at different times in different ways. So I love how you said it, Theo. How do we work with all of that in genuine, life-giving ways that in the end bring healing? Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about brokenness that needs healing, hurt that needs healing.
I think for where we are at with our group, I think sometimes there's been occasion where it's felt a bit like when you go to the school disco and everybody sat around the edge and being slightly kind of like
watching you, Adam. At the disco, watching you.
Yeah, and and perhaps it's not always conducive, even in somebody's living room, to be very open about maybe something that's going on in life. It might not be the right environment, and I can imagine that being the case quite easily. And I think we're not at that point yet, and I'm sure we will get to the point, but we're not at that point where I think we are being very intentional in each other's lives, or at least we have the mentality where we are thinking of everybody. I mean, I think certain people's are, but perhaps the collective group doesn't have the mentality where we were towards the end of your sheet that you sent through, Todd, where we are. There's the attitude of like, okay, well, I know this person is struggling this week, so I'm going to step up and this is going to happen, or even preempting because we know somebody so well that we do something in support of them and whatnot. It's very much like, yeah, we are meeting and we're trying to meet, but that can in some way be the extent of it for some members of our group.
Yeah.
And that's as far as it goes.
I like what you said towards the beginning. I mean, there's a proper time and a place for everything. And Theo, if hard things are going on in certain relationships, like, that's again, talked about this so much. That's why the DNA structure is so critical, because that's where a lot of the harder, deeper stuff is being addressed. Not at the party. Okay? Parties are parties. They're meant to be fun and life-giving and happy and so there's a time and a place to go after certain struggles or conflicts, or there's a time not to. Okay? We're not going to have a Saturday morning breakfast and have it be this super heavy conversation about this conflict between these people. Okay? We're going to eat a yummy breakfast and we're going to have fun and enjoy it, and that's what a good breakfast is for. Okay? Time and a place. Proper time and a place for certain things. And the DNA piece is so critical because that's when a lot of stuff, harder stuff, deeper stuff that needs to be talked about one-on-one, one-on-two, that's when that stuff happens.
Just to pick up on what Adam's saying, I think a lot of this for us in our own experience has been a bit like, to use Adam's illustration there about being at a disco, everyone sat around the side, but when someone gets up on the dance floor, everyone else or other people will then come. They're waiting for the first person to get dancing, and then oh, okay, I'll join in.
Yeah.
And we've found actually in a lot of this, it actually has taken the leaders of all our groups, so the three communities we have, they've really had to model informality. They've had to model, they've had to be deliberately saying to people, stretch or starve, give us a hand with the dishwasher. They've had to kind of show the group and actually articulate it with the group, so that as time, it does take time. I don't know if we're just slow learners over here, but over time, then people pick up, this is how it rolls. And I think a lot we struggle. I think we find the easier thing is the plan stuff. The organic stuff is at the minute still is as spontaneous as the life group leaders organizing it. So yet I think we're digging in saying, no, if we keep being spontaneous, or keep saying we're going to the park, who's coming, or whatever, that we hope that other people then start being spontaneous as well and unplanned. But certainly it does take, I suppose, the leadership piece for all our guys is to be the first on the dance floor, even if actually you'd rather be sat down around the edge yourself. But
Awesome.
Either that or you throw kids into the mix, because they always get up and dance.
Love that, Paul. First out on the dance floor. Love it.
You've had sorry, I'm back, but sorry. But yeah, I was listening whilst sort of pretending to not listen on the phone. It was a bit confusing. But yeah, with the informality thing, we had it was really great. Someone sent a message saying they turned up on, so we meet on Tuesday night, and they came in there basically in their pajamas, or half their pajamas, because they'd kind of felt like they got to the point where they just didn't need to bother. And that modeling the getting, so I think it's, yes, being on the first on the dance floor, but it's also being so one of the things we did was to stop the group for a little bit. Just say it's not on tonight, but but amongst yourselves, can you meet up and just hang out and have dinner? So just get inviting each other, and we'll be back on next week. And we've done that twice, partly because I'm a bad planner, but also it also is good. We found it was really fruitful, and it was really, so we're not meeting this coming week because of half term, and I'm in London at the moment. But but I said to them, you know, what do you guys want to do? You should just meet up. And they said, oh, we've already formed a subgroup. Like, we're already meeting up there. We've already got a WhatsApp group, 4 families already together. We've been hanging out. And as I dug below the surface, I discovered the oldies have set up a Zoom call for each other. Some of the younger families have been hanging out. They've all just started organizing themselves into about 3 or 4 subgroups. And which is really great because we've needed to multiply, but been waiting how to do that. And yeah, it's just really encouraging that persistence of some, you know, we can, as leaders, we can try and make it happen, but also some of it is just about everyone's got that initiative in them. They just maybe feel like they're waiting for us to make it happen. Yeah. And by deliberately not making it happen, you can make it happen as well, you know, and a strategic dropping the ball type of thing can be really good. So yeah, we've just been, it's really boosted the community of the group. It's made it much more secure and way more people they don't even turn up with shoes on anymore, and they just walk straight in, help themselves to stuff. I walked around the house and I found people in pretty much every single room having amazing conversations and praying for each other. I was like, brilliant. And nice. I didn't have to do anything. It was really good.
Love it.
But yeah, I don't know, just sharing because it's encouraging to see it. It wasn't like that for a long time. I mean, it was kind of had bits of it, but it was all really awkward when it came to the kind of God bit. But now it feels weird interrupting all of the amazing stuff going on to do a God bit, and then actually knowing there's way more awesome stuff happening because people are just reading the Bible through the week, coming together and being and doing church. And yeah, so it's interesting. It's really cool. Great. And I think going on mission together has made a really big difference. People have come back having known each other outside of the context of just being in that room or that house.
Yep. Love it. I mean, you're describing family, Dave. Shoes off, pajamas on, or mostly on. Walk right in, feel comfortable, know where the refrigerator is. So, yep. Well, hey, this has been very good. Good examples, good stories, super practical. So yeah, I was encouraged by it all. Hopefully you were too. I would just reinforce this idea to help each of your groups create a specific sustainable plan. Every one of them is going to be different. It's not a cookie cutter approach. Every plan is going to look different because every group's different. Different mission, different people, different neighborhood, different schedules, different kids, different. So every one of them is going to be tailored specifically to their group. But they need it, or other things will come in and further distract their already busy life. And their good intentions will not become fruitful disciple making and fruitful mission. Too many distractions out there. Too many things competing for people's time, their mind. So, okay, well, hey, let me pray these things for us. Father, thanks for my brothers and sisters there. And just pray that you would help them in the days ahead to lead their people and lead their groups in things we've talked about on this call. To really ask if they're stewarding their time well first, stewarding it for your kingdom, or stewarding it for themselves and their kingdom. And then help them to just look at their lives and their schedules and their groups and get some clarity about how to live together in genuine, intentional ways with the people you've put around them. So we pray for help for every one of the churches, every one of the small groups represented here. That you would help them, help them make progress in these things. And we pray that as they do make progress, that it would, just result in deepening life-giving relationship that people would look forward to, the relationship that people would set aside time for. Life-giving relationship. So we pray for more of that. And we also pray that as a result that many lost people would be loved well. And that healing would be brought to their lives, in every way. Spiritual healing, physical healing, emotional, relational healing. But that would happen in many lives. So Father, thanks for doing this in us. Thanks for doing this for us. Thanks that we get to do this with you. Thank you for loving us so well. We love you and pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Good stuff, everybody. We'll see you next month. We will talk about how can we grow in talking intentionally. So we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, everyone.